So hopefully with this discussion of the 8 aspects, well, no, we haven't finished completely. Deficient and fulfilled, or decrease and increase. Let me just finish those and then continue with what I just said, what I just started. So, no decrease. Again, to decrease is always in relation to something more, right? If something else, there's more of this and less of something else, whereas previously there was more, we call it decrease. Okay? So decrease as in, like, for instance, shortening. If I say this is shortened, it's in relation to something else that is longer, or in relation to what it looked like before, shortened. Likewise, decrease is in relation to, well, let's say to what was there before, decrease. Increase, you go back in time as well. There was less before, now there's more, so I label it increase. If previously there wasn't less, I wouldn't label it increase. So it's really good, like every time we find ourselves, for instance, obsessing about increase or decrease, right? To check, it's merely labeled in relation to this. Okay, so my knowledge has not increased much. But in relation to, like, let's say 10 years, it's increased incredibly. So in relation to an hour ago, okay, I haven't understood properly, for instance, so it hasn't increased that much, and I may get upset about it. But put it into perspective. Take it wider, like understand that this is just labeled on the basis, let's say, an hour ago, but in relation to something else, it is increased. Yeah? And do this exercise. It may be helpful to just, what we've been doing is really this exercise on the basis of what is it labeled. I make you look at the parts, okay? I make you look at the parts and ask you to then label on the basis in relation to what do you need in order to now label. Okay? So I would like you to do this in the discussion group. This was your idea. Beginning and end. How are beginning and end relative? I believe you did this meditation on death last night, right? Yeah, so Venerable Dorka, she did this death meditation where, again, she asked you about where's the beginning, right? Is death a beginning or is it an end? And again, challenging you in that direction. So taking death as an example, but also taking other instances or other situations in our life when we focus more on the beginning versus the end, right? End, beginning, okay? So what is it labeled on? Take examples and check. And then to also, what we now need to learn, we need to now transfer everything we learn here to every life situation. Right now it may feel, you put it really nicely, Karen, right? Kate put it really nicely. She said, yeah, it's nice over here, but it doesn't really touch me personally, right? And you just asked me the question about analytical meditation. It's okay if I give it away, right? Doesn't matter. I talk about your personal questions. So if you don't want me to talk about it, please let me know. Otherwise, they're so great. I want to share them with everyone. With these analytical meditations, the goal is really that it affects our way of thinking, that it affects our actions. That is the goal, in a positive way, right? In a positive way. Just as reflecting on anger, meditating on anger, right? Someone did this, that affects us by way of anger, right? By anger arising, it affects us in a negative way. So now we need to find an effect. We need to find a way in which it affects us in a positive way. Now, all you need to do is, what are my main shortcomings of the different types of afflictions? What is my main problem? Is it anger? Is it attachment? Is it arrogance? Is it just wrong views? Is it envy, jealousy? What are my main problems? Is it all of them equally strong? Right? right? Do I really feel I don't have any anger? I have no attachment? Am I a little bit in denial, right? Anyway, so to check. All right, so, and now, let's see. Give me an example, any one of you. How can we use these ideas, so deficient, fulfilled, or as it's called, increase, decrease, how they don't exist inherently, how the I doesn't exist inherently, how the body doesn't exist inherently. How can we not just apply the antidotes to the afflictions the way we've learned them? What are the antidotes to anger, usually? Patience or love. What are the antidotes to envy? Pardon? Generosity or? Pardon? Sympathetic joy. Okay, sympathetic joy. Yes, so to be happy for the other person, right? To be happy, to rejoice in what the other person, in their success. That is okay, all right. So those are so attachment. What is the antidote to attachment? Huh? Huh?
Is it gratitude?
Gratitude? What is the antidote to desire and attachment? Very good. Impermanence works. Yes, that works. Because our sense is that there's some permanence there. So what we attach to in our mind, that object seems to be something unchanging that we now don't want to be separate from. But there's more.
Awareness.
Huh?
Awareness.
Awareness we need for all of those as as part of the antidote, to be aware of its qualities and so forth. But what is considered to be, let me be more specific, attachment towards a specific person.
Dependent arising.
Yeah, that too. But there's one more. Pardon?
Let go. Let go.
You're not going to like my answer. Yes.
Not long lasting.
That's impermanence. Yes.
Generosity.
No. Generosity is the opposite of stinginess. It's like when we're stingy, we can't, really, we're not able to give, we're not able to share.
Loving kindness.
Loving kindness, it could get stronger. Oh, loving kindness. I'm practicing loving kindness with this person. I really can't be. Pardon? No. No, emptiness is the antidote for all of them. Of course, emptiness is also an antidote for all of them, but the specific ones, the emptiness is an antidote for all. For anger, for stinginess, for jealousy. Emptiness is but there's one more. You're not going to like it. Ugliness. Ugliness, which means, no. When you're obsessed with the body of another person, for instance, right? This is just an example. When you're obsessed with the physical, let's start with the physical. We're obsessed with this person's skin, with that person's appearance. Usually it's like when we're attached to another person, it's both physical and mental, isn't it? The mental we get to in a moment. The mental let's start with the mental. We also focus on their negative qualities. Right? Focus on their negative qualities because they're not, we believe them to be perfect. I'll tell you a funny story. It's time for a funny story. It's so funny how our attachment colors this other person, like as if this person was perfect in all ways. Exactly as our anger, right? The anger sees just the negativity. The attachment does the same. In the beginning, you see them as perfect. And I had a crush on someone when I was in school. It was a boy in my class or in the higher class? In my class. No, he wasn't in my class then. And then he went abroad for 1 year, did one of those exchange programs. And when he came back, he was in my class because he had to repeat the year. And I was such a crush on him. I had such a crush on him. He kind of basically ignored me. So I really liked him. And it was so strong that at some point when I saw his backpack, it seemed to be perfect. His backpack. It was like my sense of his perfection extended to his backpack. I would see this backpack and go, oh, so beautiful, it's his backpack. nothing to do. I mean, it was really not part of him. It was just sitting there in the corner. It wasn't even attached to him. And it was, wow. And then he went away for a year. And when he came back, I thought, what did I see in him? Right? The distance. I mean, it was that distance because I hadn't seen him around. I'd forgotten about it. It was someone else who was perfect now and whose backpack I thought was incredible. So I was like, what did I see in him? Right? So it became clear that my mind just made up that perfect person. Total exaggeration. Does that make sense? It's really like, so we need to now focus on this emotional sense of just perfection to get to an emotional sense of there are also some limitations. Sometimes we just make up these things. Our mind goes as far as making things up. He's probably really kind and will listen to all my problems. He is really kind and will listen for hours to my problems and just be quiet and listen to me. I'm exaggerating. We don't even put it in those words because then we would know how ridiculous it sounds. But there's this expectation. They are like Brad Pitt or something, or whatever, right? I mean, just these fantasies. And teenagers are the best example because they're really needing still to find their balance, right? It's still this extreme of being infatuated with someone. Oh my God, how many skiing instructors did I fall in love with? Every skiing instructor and every dentist for that matter. I had crushes on what was it with skiing instructors? I don't know. Not my teachers in school. They were skiing instructors. Yeah, they were all Austrian or Swiss. Oh, did I obsess over them. Perfect as they were going down the mountain. I'm like, wait a minute. Right behind them. Wow, my obsession with them really. It started in elementary school, really, like being carried away by a prince, you know, that version. But that's how far. There was no person involved. But then later on, there were skiing instructors. So it's like, when I look back at this, I like these examples. They were so extreme. They're right in my face, right? As I was an adult, well, anyway, I became a nun after that, so there was not much time. But the point is, you know, I had this experience, at least as a teenager, you know, so that was good. Once I met the Dharma, no, it was all no longer interesting. But previous to that, yes, and it was so extreme and so funny. So funny, my obsession. So anyway, the point is that there's this exaggeration. We don't see things for what they are. And to then, if it's a physical obsession, it's very easy. Just think of what's inside. Visualize you take off the first layer of skin, really. 2 layers of skin, right? Just this muscly and the eyes, you know, like we're obsessed with this and it's covered. What's inside, we wouldn't even put into our hand. What's inside, you know, in the colon. I mean, even if they chew their food and they spit it out, no way I'm going to eat it. And still, I'm sorry, you can see your disgusted faces, but we're like, this is the perfect body. Well, just imagine this person doesn't take a shower for a month. Right? They may smell as good, what is it, Old Spice and New Spice and what have you, right? All these stuff that they put on or the perfumes and what have you. And just don't do that for a week. Or throw up in front of you, or I don't know, right? And just saying this obsession with their body being pure. There's nothing pure about it. But our minds suggest this is pure, this is clean. Okay? So I'm not saying we shouldn't have relationships, of course, but let's be realistic and let's not exaggerate what's there. So just to give it some thought. What am I, so when I'm obsessing about the body of this person, right? I don't have time to do much else. Certainly as a teenager, I felt very busy when I had obsessions, right? I wasn't able to do a lot of other things. And there was a lot of pain. I couldn't get it. These skiing instructors were so much older. So like, well, anyway, I don't want to go into, and dentists. I mean, anyway, dentists. The thing is, so therefore, Therefore, to give it some time. And mental obsession, of course, as well. They're not perfect. They're not perfect. And if they're Buddhas, they're also not perfect. They're not going to think I'm the center of the universe. They're not going to think I'm special. They think everyone else is special. I don't want that. Right? The point is really to look at the whole picture and to look at the negative sides. Even with the Buddha. Like, I'm not saying that the Buddha has negative sides, but the Buddha is not boyfriend material. Right? I mean, I'm talking along this hypothetical weird, but it's not like he's gonna work on my ego. He's gonna try to bring up my ego. And I don't want that kind of boyfriend. Sorry. So really think of the disadvantages. Okay, let's leave the Buddha out, but I don't mean to be disrespectful. No, what I'm saying is just an ordinary person, we have to work with our own, right, negativities. And then likewise, others have to work with their. And so to have unrealistic expectations, relationships are wonderful, really, that you can learn a lot. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't have that experience, but I'm thinking, how much patience do you need to just have someone lying next to you? Making sounds and farting and stuff. I mean, I'm just not used to this. Only my parents, but up to a certain age. And suddenly, I slept once with a nun in the room and she snored the whole night. There was a table between us and I kept going, bang, and she would stop and I'd sleep. She would start again. And I'd be like, boom, again. I just talked about this with my friend this morning. We were laughing with this particular nun who was snoring. But you know, if you're with another person, you need to be patient. You need to be patient with this other person. So relationships are a great opportunity for growth. The problem is when I have this pink cloud kind of imagination of what that relation, it just leads to pain. It leads to pain, it leads to wanting me to control the other person, which it's very likely for them that they take off. They take off if I try to control them, if I take away their freedom. So relationships, if they're based on great love and on great attachment and desire, they're doomed. Which is why it's healthy to meditate on the negativity. Okay? So I'm not saying that you end up getting upset or have resentment for that person. That would be another extreme. Then you need to stop the meditation. But no, just to see in the situation what kind of aspect, and again, you need to measure it. You need to know, what is my goal? I want to work with this obsession I have for this other person. That if I didn't meet them for many years, I would end up thinking, what was I thinking? Right? When the attachment is gone. So to get a better objective sense and then work with that. And all the meditations, all our analytical meditations should be like that. But also, and what I'm trying to say is apply these. These are very specific. So in the scriptures that tell us these methods to address anger, address attachment, these different techniques are good to reduce, of course, temporarily reduce these afflictions. And it's all we have before we start using emptiness. So we need them. Let me say again, love and patience for anger and resentment, rejoicing, feeling sincerely happy for the other person's success in the case of envy, love in the case of jealousy, wanting the person who is my lover, for instance, wanting them to be happy, even if it means they're with another person, wanting the other person to be happy if they're with my lover, so sincere love. What else? Arrogance, well, reflecting on my negative aspects. So arrogance is like, instead of attachment here, arrogance is attachment to my own qualities, focus on my shortcomings, focus on the impermanence of my qualities, and so forth. Attachment, the negative sides of the person, and impermanence. So these are great. We should apply those. But each of these antidotes are limited in that they cannot remove, they do not even touch the root misperception, which is the root cause of all those. Plus, they only are effective with regard to a particular affliction. So patience will not help me to reduce my jealousy, or will not reduce me to reduce my stinginess. And love will not help me to reduce such, and so forth. So they all help to a certain degree, but they're too specific. Now, doing these practices, if you really want to practice the Dharma, your focus should be on recognizing what is my main affliction. What is my main afflictive emotion? Watch it, get to know it better, be realistic about when it arises, how strong it arises, and start to apply the antidotes in the form of the antidotes that I just described. And now, once you studied the Heart Sutra, what I would like you to do is now apply emptiness. And that is hard, but even more effective. Okay? Taking that step from merely practicing patience versus also reflecting on the whole situation that led to the anger from the point of view of it being merely labeled. That's another point of discussion I would like you to go through. So those two, you can basically choose. You can do one or the other. And again, today, have you already done the... Oh, no, you do it at 2. That's right, yeah. So the new system when you change. Therefore, what I would like you to do, choose one of the two. So the first one being beginning and end, how that is merely labeled, and of course in connection to our attachment towards maybe, wanting to avoid the end, etc. But also what I think is extremely important is to take a situation, any example, where an affliction is really strong, and how can we apply emptiness now? How can we apply emptiness? How can we apply the other methods as well, the ones we just discussed, rejoicing and so forth, and then also bring emptiness into it to such a degree that it reduces, I'm not saying eliminates your afflictions. For that, path of accumulation, path of preparation, of course, those are really difficult. We're not there yet. It's good to know where we're aiming towards to better know how to practice now, but let's be realistic. We're not there yet. Yet we can use emptiness, even if we haven't fully understood it. Use the little understanding we have and now apply it. Give me an example, please, anyone. Any example. I just want to hear from you what would be a way you would be curious to deal with something. Well, you don't have to give away something personal. You could just give some example, whatever.
Irritation at music during the evening meditation.
Okay. Your irritation. Okay, very good. One thing I want to say about that music. There is a guy where I live. There's a monastery right opposite my window. It's quite a large monastery. And when I came back from Germany, I was so happy to be back here. And there's a guy. He's got like a I forget the word. A horn, like a car horn. He's got he carries around a car horn. And you know the sound. And he sells ice cream. And he comes, meh, meh, meh. And these little monks are like racing down to get their ice cream. It's not even a really. I wouldn't dare to buy it. I don't know how how clean the water is that he made it of. But initially it was like, oh, can he not get another horn? I mean, it doesn't have to be that now. Anyway, I was thinking of getting another one or something, taking away the other one or something. It was for a day or two. But then I was so glad to be back. And after a while, that was the sound of Dharamsala. That was the sound of Dharamsala. Now I'm here, I'm going, dad, dad. I'm like, oh, I'm back in Dharamsala. How nice. So I realized it's not about the sound or whatever. It's about what I associate it with, right? I love the sound of thunder. That is much louder here than this horn. You know, when there's like a thunderstorm, boom! I mean, having been in Germany for a while, it's like, whoa! The thunder is not as strong, not as loud as it is here. And I love it to pieces. The rain when it comes down. So it's louder than the music. And still, it is what we associate with it. If we were to think it's the Buddha chanting, oh my God, Its Holiness is doing this techno music. That is His Holiness modern mantra. Oh, can we move closer to the window? Right? It's just that. So it's merely labeled on the basis of, I'm spiritual, they're not. That is samsara. I'm spiritual, how dare they? And the moment there's anger, it can be the sound of Mani Padme Hum and you hate it to pieces. It's all in relation to that. It's all in relation to that. On that basis, Tantra works. It's all the sound of the mantra. Right? Right? You see it as pure. Because in actuality, so let me just go through the, yes, Roger, what do you want to?
How would you apply it to anxiety?
Okay, let me just first get to, anxiety is a little...
Which is like a little bit bigger than just,
Yes.
easier to work with.
I totally understand. But with the sound, right, you know where I'm getting from now, right? It's like what we label on it. It's not just sound. It's techno music. It's samsara. It's non-meditation. It's all that. And then dislike arises. It's in and of itself, it's neither this or not. If you take apart the different notes, right? I like whenever Droga talks about it. She makes this movement. It's so funny. Every time I see that, I have to laugh. Yeah, but it's really like these tones, you know? It is that. It's in regularity. Have you ever heard of like a puja done sometimes? Boom, boom, boom. It kind of has that same rhythm in some cases, and we love it. Okay. So here's a way. Patience, yes, but also go deeper in and of itself. Take it apart. Each moment you don't find techno music. An association, unless you know what techno music is, you may not even know that it's music. You may think it's some kind of thunder, right? Some kind of bird or whatever. And then we're okay with it. Oh, what a nice bird. Okay? Okay. Great. But then anger. Anxiety. Fear. Fear is not an afflictive emotion. So it's a little harder. Because the texts are not as clear on that. And I think we in the 21st century have more fear than people had in the past. There's certain fields, there's pressure. There's a lot of pressure of society needing to be someone who we're not, or we cannot be, or we don't want to be, we're forced to be. And what happens is fear arises. Yes. So how do I deal with fear based on emptiness? Well, first of all, the suggestion I had early on, for the strongest, to watch it. To watch the fear. To even allow for it to arise without being caught into it and just seeing it as not one with yourself. You're not your fear. Your fear is not you. It's an impermanent sensation that comes in dependence on causes and conditions, that has parts, and that is labeled as fear. It's labeled as fear on the basis of, well, what appears to it, how it makes us feel. Deep within, it seems like to be there in our belly, right? It's almost like it comes from our belly. It agitates the mind. Our mind is no longer calm. It agitates the mind. On the basis of that, I label fear. And I label fearful. Because our main problem is also that we fear our fear. We are scared of the fear. We're scared that the fear arises when it's not there, and we're scared when it's there. That's how fear operates, isn't it? So first of all, labeling it as negative, we suppress it. So is it negative or is it possible? Is it positive? Well, actually it's neither. So if now we were to look at it as our, what is it called? I used this word before, now I forget. It's time to take a break. In the laboratory, you have the petri dish. It's your petri dish now, thank you. It's the petri dish. This becomes your petri dish now, your own fear. So then you're almost welcoming it, right? You want it, so I'm giving you this task, I'm giving you this homework. Watch your own fear. This is your homework. So now you want the fear to come because you need the fear, right? It's like watch a dog. You want a dog to watch it. So now you need your fear. Instead of pushing it away, instead of being fearful of it, it's like at least you feel like a sense of duty or maybe curiosity, right? Get to know my own fear, my friend. It's something that helps me to understand myself better. It's a friend. It's like a teacher. It can teach me more about myself. So there's, instead of pushing it away, instead of fear and aversion, instead, maybe even gratitude. Help me to understand myself better. So when it arises, it's no longer scary. It doesn't have little horns and fangs. It's trying to catch me and pull me under. No, it's none of those things. It helps me. So there's already, you're welcoming. And then you watch it. What is it made of? What is its cause? What is its cause? I mean, just look at the cause. Maybe the fear of not being someone. So you can look at the causes. Do they really make sense? The pressure for maybe my parents. I'm the pressure that comes from my parents. Are they going to love me less if I don't do? Actually, they don't. Right? Actually, they will always love me. I mean, and if they didn't love me before, well, then me doing this, that, and the other will not make them love me more. I may be criticized if I don't do this. I don't know the example. I mean, oftentimes it's, of course, fear. There's no cause for it. We feel there's no cause. And it's difficult to find the underlying cause. Fear of the future. Fear of the future. Okay? This is something my mom is very good at. Fear of the future. She keeps saying, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I keep saying, of those scenarios, only one can happen. Either your house is going to be destroyed by a fire or a tornado. Both is not going to, you see, like she has the fear of, I don't know, to give you an example, the house burning down, right? Or no, the house being destroyed. She loves her house. She's very attached to her house. So all these different scenarios, I don't know, the war in the Ukraine is going to swap over. Suddenly, Germany becomes part of the whole idea of, whatever. And then it gets destroyed by a bomb. And I have to tell her, but it's only going to be one of them. You worry about all these scenarios, but they won't happen all together. It can only be one. So our worry is so bizarre because we worry about a future of different possibilities of which we don't even know if any of them happen. So why worry about the future? Instead of creating the causes, as much as we can, that these things don't happen, and deal with it when it happens. And think back, in the past, we've dealt with problems, and we're still here to have the confidence. Think back in time. I keep telling my mom, you went through so much trouble before. This happened, this happened, this happened. And you look what you did, what you accomplished. And then she goes, oh yeah, I was able to do it in the past. Why shouldn't I be able to deal with it in the future? She's more thinking of the future and worrying about it than remembering how she was able to manage so much. Was able to overcome, so many problems she had, right? Like other people did too. And she able to manage and to rise from it. So if it's fear of the future, for instance, wait for the future at least to arrive.
How would you deal with a fear from losing someone you love, which you know that will happen? That you know will happen.
Well, the problem is everyone will lose. Everyone will lose. Either we die or they die. But we meet them again. Okay. Unless, of course, I mean, from a Buddhist point of view, where there is gathering, there is dispersion. Where there is what? Gathering, there's dispersion. Where there's rising, there's coming down. Where there's meeting, there's separation. But where there's meeting, there's separation, and there's meeting. There's meeting, separation, and meeting. Sounds so negative. Where there's meeting, there's separation. Where there's gathering, there's dispersion. Right? Where there's going up, there's going down. But there's also going up again. Where there is meeting, there's separation, there's meeting again. So first of all, we keep meeting the people again and again. It's not like that. And we meet new people all the time. We meet new people all the time. So the people we're really close to now, right? Yes, we will at some point be separate. We're separate from them now. They're not there right now. But they'll continue to exist and we continue to exist anyway. So they're not gone forever. As in, like they're dead, like they're going out of existence. They continue on in a different way. And we're spending some time with them. And then we meet new people. But we meet these people again as well, right? We meet these people again as well. And even, okay, we're losing them. I know I'm going to lose my dad sooner or later. I know, he's really seriously sick. And I'm really close to my dad. I'm really, really, really close. I mean, he's always been my hero, right? But I know one day we're all going to leave. Either it's me going first, and I don't want him for me to go first because the pain would be terrible. So it's actually better that way. And he's quite sick right now. He's been paralyzed for the last 20 years. He can't speak, he had a stroke, and he can't. So I want him to be there, but I'm actually saying, please remain in your wheelchair and suffer and take 20 minutes just to go for a pee, right? So he's okay with it. He's okay. I don't think he's holding on this as much as he... And I'm just thinking, I'm so grateful to him, so grateful to him. And I'll have to separate. And when I think about it, I get emotional. And when it happens, I'll be very, but I know we've had a great time together. It could be longer. I mean, I spent more than 30 years here, so we didn't have that much time together. When I was a teenager, yes, but then later on, or when I was a kid. So, but still, I feel like I can let him go. And I hope I'll meet him again. He was the best father in the world. I keep telling him every time, okay, to be careful, I can't talk too much about this. Really, I mean, therefore, life, when there's birth, there's death. And to be ready for it. And to be ready for it that one day, and my mom will go one day as well. My mom is still fit and strong, but she'll go as well. And oh my God, His Holiness one day. And all these other great beings. So to just be in tune with so there's separation, to be in tune with reality. And just go with the waves. That's change. Reflect more on change and go with it. Don't go against it, right? It's like putting your feet against the waves. It's like they're just going to break over you. Ride on them and just go with the flow and you'll meet them again. That way, right? Yes, we have our moments, and I'll have my moment when my dad is really, but I'll get back from it again. I'll cry, of course. I'll be upset for a moment. I pray for him. I pray for him. I do this now every 3 minutes. I do these prayers for him that at least I've given him, hopefully, these prayers. And I appreciate what you guys do. Thank you so much. I was really touched when Venerable Durga told me. That's very sweet of you, right? But that's all I can do. That's all I can do, right? And of course, death is the end of one thing, but the beginning of something new. In his case, he's going to get a new body. He can run around, hopefully. Right? Yes. Okay. So that's how I deal with it. Yeah. Anyway. And I'm saying I don't have a good way of dealing with it, but it helps me a lot. The Dharma really helps me. And the death of another person, that is big. That's huge. Yes, someone who's close to you. But remember, we come together again. We'll meet again. Okay, anyway. Yes, last.
So we talked about cause and effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
So can it be, and we always wanted change,
Mm-hmm.
right? So can it be my cause and effect meeting to meeting instead of meeting, suffering, meeting to suffering?
Your cause and effect, can you say the last
So
sentence?
basically, for example, it's easy for me to understand a cause and effect is like from suffering
Uh-huh.
to, sorry,
From non-virtue to
separation
mm-hmm.
to meaning.
Ah, okay.
Could it be like, can we think like that in the same span, meeting to meeting, instead of
Yes, of course.
separation, meeting?
But yeah, well, the problem is meeting to meeting. I mean, by implication, if you meet and then you meet again, by implication there was a separation, right? If you say we meet and we meet, well, if you're the whole time together, you don't have to say that you meet because you're met and now you're together. But when you say we meet and then we meet, that means that in between you weren't together.
Absolutely.
Right?
But
so there's a separation
absolutely.
indicated.
The separation could be in the middle. It's not
Yeah.
necessary that we have to do it like a, always think about meeting to separation.
No, we can focus on the time when we meet again. It's
That's
just a matter of perspective.
Yeah.
It's just
But
a matter
there's
of perspective.
we have to think about a lifespan. In this lifespan or another lifespan of a mind.
Right.
We can think in the same lifespan. Can we think like meeting to meeting?
Of course.
The separation could be in the middle.
Why would you just focus on the meeting? The separation can be good as well. Right? I mean, you can, of course, focus on meeting, but I mean, you go out of this room, you separate, you come back together, you meet. It's just reality, right? You meet people, you meet them for lunch, you meet again. And you see, and also if separation gives us a hard time, maybe it's good to deal with it a little bit, right? Sometimes the thoughts we avoid are the ones we need to spend a little bit more time with, right? Sometimes the thoughts, oh, why is it? And then deal with it. Anyway, it's time to enjoy your great lunch and see you after the break. Okay, thank you.